This video is going to take us through the hypotheses. I will note that this particular study has a lot of hypotheses, so don't assume all studies will be like this. It's just they had a lot going on here. So I want to talk through the 6 hypotheses, 2 research questions, and specifically what's going on with manipulated versus measured independent variables, because that's really important. So just as a reminder, hypotheses are predictions that make directional predictions that a particular independent variable is going to affect a particular dependent variable in a specific way. We make hypotheses when we have enough previous research that we feel pretty solid on being able to make a prediction like that. Research questions, on the other hand, are more when it's exploratory, it's new, we don't have enough previous research to be able to tell us like what might happen. So just to point that out. And research questions sometimes have an independent and dependent variable. Sometimes they're more descriptive. So I also want to talk about this manipulated and measured. Manipulated variables, what we've been talking about with experiments, that the researchers have intentionally manipulated something. They showed them the picture or not. They gave them the treatment or not, that sort of thing. However, not all independent variables are manipulated, like in surveys, for example, independent variables are not manipulated. Sometimes they're measured. And in this study, even though there is a manipulation in this study, they also have some hypotheses that are related to measured variables. Okay, so they asked these kids in this study a number of questions, and then they're going to look at the relationship between some of the kids' answers to the different questions. Okay, they are measuring these at the same time. So for these kind of hypotheses, time order can be a problem because, especially if they measured it at the exact same time. So let's look at H1. I'm going to click here, and you can see on the side here that I have a bunch of notes that you can check this out. Oops, I do not want to delete that. Okay, so H1, perceived selling intent will activate advertising schema such that tweens recall more product-related information from an unboxing video when they perceive greater selling intent. Okay, so the thing that comes first here is the kid's perception of selling intent. So these kids were asked, did you think that they were selling you something, right? And then they answered, I can't remember the scale, but on some scale, right? So what the authors are arguing here is that perceived selling intent is going to activate kids' brains, this activate advertising schema, activate kids' brains so they're like, this is an ad. If they think that someone's selling them something, their brains are going to go, this is an ad. So as a result, those kids are going to remember more product-related information. Because the kids, what they're saying here is that the kids' brains are like on advertisement mode. And advertisement mode leads to kids recalling information about the product. Okay? Now, importantly, too, in this will activate advertising schema. This is like this abstract mediating variable. It's not something that the authors are actually measuring here. They can't get inside kids' brains. Well, I mean, I guess you could, but you can't get inside kids' brains to understand like how exactly they're reacting. But what they're arguing here is that theoretically, this is what they think the link between these things are. Okay, so the thing is, they asked the kids perceived into selling intent, and then they asked the kids, after they saw this video, to remember things about the product, right? So those were 2 things measured at the same time. Okay, H2 is pretty similar. I'm gonna just scroll down here. Perceived information or informative intent will activate educational schema. So this is basically the same kind of idea, but this is like, instead of the kids being like, hey, I'm perceiving that they're trying to sell me something, the kids are like, hey, I'm perceiving that this is something that's like educational or informative. So they're saying the more the kids think that this is educational, their little brains are going to be like, consume this like it's educational content, and then they'll remember more educational information, right? So again, this is a measured variable, and they're measured basically at the same time, but these are their first 2 hypotheses, okay? And again, this kind of abstract theoretical moderator of this idea of a schema is in there. They're not actually measuring it. Oh, I'm sorry, mediator, not moderator. It is in there. Okay, then we have RQ1, and this is a descriptive RQ. Will perceived informative intent or selling intent be more related to purchase intention? So this kind of has an ID there, like basically which one of these is going to make it more likely the kids want to buy something. We can assume it'd probably be the selling intention, but maybe it'll be tricky and it's the informative intention. So, you know, I don't know. Let's see. Okay, so they organized their hypotheses in little sections. So now they're talking here about all the rules about how sponsored content is supposed to be disclosed. So we're going to go down here. We're going to go to H3. So in this case, this is when we are actually getting into manipulated variables. Tweens will perceive greater selling intent in a sponsored unboxing video with a disclosure compared to a non-sponsored video. So they're saying if they show the kids this unboxing video and there's a cue in there that says, you know, I got this product from the company, I was sponsored for this, then the kids are going to interpret that they're being sold to more. Okay, so here the independent variable here is sponsorship cue. And in this case, was it sponsored versus non-sponsored? And then there's also this like subtle one, but regardless. And then the dependent variable is perceived selling intent, which is something that they measure in the kids. Okay, so here is the companion hypothesis to it. Tweens will perceive greater informative intent in a clearly non-sponsored video compared to a sponsored video with a disclosure. So they're like, if there's no sponsorship mentioned, the kids are gonna perceive it to be more about education. All right, so those are manipulated. So we're gonna go down a little bit more and we have H5. This is a little bit more of a descriptive hypothesis. Tweens will perceive the intent behind an unboxing video in which sponsorship is addressed as similar to that of a non-sponsored video. So they're saying if like the host of the unboxing doesn't say anything, it's kind of vague, and we'll see how that's operationalized later. It's kind of vague, the notion of like, if there's a sponsor or not, the kids are gonna think of that similar as they would to an unsponsored video. So cool, okay. Then we get into the part about advertising literacy training. So some of the kids, and it was randomly assigned, received this additional little video to kind of like train them about being sold stuff. So H6 breaks into two different hypotheses. So H6A, seeing the training video. So that's a manipulated IV. Some saw the training video, some didn't, will heighten tweens' detection of selling intent in a sponsored video. Okay, so they're saying that if the kids who saw the training video and then they also received a sponsor of the video where the sponsorship disclosed, they're going to have even more selling intent. This is an interaction effect. I'm going to add this in the notes. They're arguing for an interaction effect here. That makes sense to you all. And then B, H6B. Kids who see the training video will have greater perceived informative intent, specifically if they're in the non-sponsored condition. Okay? I also want to point out here before we get down to RQ2 that the authors have put in a model. Models are super duper useful for trying to understand what's going on. So I'm going to zoom in on it. And you can see they have first the experimental conditions. Kids are randomly assigned to get the sponsored video, the non-sponsored video, or the unaddressed sponsored video. Some of the kids get the training. Then they measure the perceived informative intentions, perceived selling intention. Some of the kids, I guess, got this training after. I have to read a little more closely for that. And then they measured these outcomes. What do they remember about the product? What do they remember about the health information? And would they be willing to buy it? So all of this kind of maps onto this model, which is nice. Okay, so then we have RQ2 down here, and there's an A and a B. Will exposure to this training video moderate relationships between tweens' perceived video intent and their A, recall of information, and B, purchase intention? So here they're saying that the kids, when they were asked about, do you think it's selling stuff to you? Do you think it's trying to teach you something? It's a measured IV. If they also then saw the training video, which half of them did, half of them didn't, is gonna lead to more recall. Okay, so that is A and B. So yeah, that is interesting. I also do want to give a little bit of a reminder about moderation versus mediation. There is an extra video here, and there's some details about this. So just to let you know, you can watch that as well. Mediation explains how or why an independent variable affects a dependent variable. The mediator sits between them. Okay, it's how or why. Moderation explains for whom or under what conditions an independent variable impacts a dependent variable. The moderator changes the relationship, but it doesn't sit on the causal path. So if we look back up here in this model, you can see that they're arguing that this is a mediator. It's sitting on if this is IV and this is DV, this perceived intention sitting in the middle here. And actually it serves as an IV for some hypotheses, but it's in the middle. Getting the training is a moderator. It's not in the causal path. It's just impacting for whom or under what conditions certain things happen between the IV and DV. So check that out when you are looking at studies to see the model. It's for some people, this will make things extremely clear for them. So it's worth taking a peek on.